Good afternoon, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in. Let me say this right out the gate so nobody gets confused today. Life is not supposed to be easy. Life is supposed to be hard. I don't care who told you otherwise. I don't care what highlight reel faith you saw on social media. I don't care how polished somebody else's testimony might seem to you. Life, real life, surrendered to God life is not easy, and it was never meant to be. Jesus himself stood in front of his disciples and said, in this world, you will have trouble. Not maybe, not possibly, not if you mess up, but you will. And then he said, but take heart because I have overcome the world. Which means the trouble doesn't mean you're losing. The trouble means you're living in reality and you're following truth. Some of you have been beating yourselves up because you thought by now it would be easier. You thought if you prayed harder, if you got sober, if you got your life right, if you gave your heart fully to God, the resistance would stop. But what nobody told you is that obedience doesn't remove the opposition, it often provokes it. The enemy doesn't fight empty people. He fights people with a destiny. So if your life feels heavy, if the pressure feels intense, if the struggle feels constant, maybe it's not because something is wrong with you. Maybe it's because something is right within you. We bought into this lie that blessing looks like comfort, but comfort never made a warrior. Comfort never produced endurance. Comfort never built faith that can stand when everything else collapses. The Bible doesn't say faith grows in ease. It says faith is refined in the fire. James said, count it all joy when you fall into trials, not because the trials feel good, but because you know what the trial is producing. Perseverance, maturity, depth, strength that you didn't even know you had. God's not wasting away your pain. He is using it with precision. You were not born into a playground. You were born into a war. You were born into a war zone. The moment you opened your eyes, you stepped onto a battlefield. And whether you realized it or not, your soul became contested ground. Scripture says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, which means the real fight isn't within people. It's with spiritual forces trying to derail your purpose. That's why some of the battles don't make any sense to you. That's why some of the pain feels targeted. That's why the resistance shows up right when you decide to change. Hell does not panic when you talk about growth. Hell panics when you start to walk it out. And hear this clearly. Pressure is not punishment. Pressure is preparation. God uses pressure because pressure reveals what's really inside of you. Oil only comes from olives that have been crushed. Wine only comes from grapes that have been pressed. And faith that can move mountains only comes from believers who have been tested and still chose to trust God. You keep asking God to remove the weight, and God keeps saying, if I remove the weight too soon, you'll never develop the strength to carry what I'm about to give you, child. Some of you are tired. Not rebellious, not faithless, just tired. Tired of doing the right thing without immediate results. Tired of praying and waiting. Tired of standing when everything in you wants to sit down. But fatigue is not failure, and exhaustion is not disqualification. Even Jesus sat down at the well. Even Elijah collapsed under the weight of discouragement. Even Paul said he was pressed beyond measure, and God didn't condemn them, he sustained them. He fed them. He reminded them that weakness is not the end of the story. So we keep praying for an easier life, but God is more interested in giving you stronger faith, because an easy life produces shallow believers, but a hard life surrendered to God produces people who cannot be shaken. Romans says the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed in us. Not to us, in us. God isn't just changing your circumstances, he's changing your character. He's building something in you that will outlast every storm. So never forget this. The cross was hard and it was necessary. Salvation didn't come through convenience. It came through sacrifice. Jesus didn't bypass the pain. He endured it. He sweat blood. He carried the weight. He took the nails. And Hebrews says it was for the joy set before him that he endured the cross, which tells me that purpose will always cost you something. But what God produces through your obedience will outweigh what you suffer in the process. So if you're hitting a hard season right now, don't call it a burial, call it a planting, because planted things don't look alive at first. They look forgotten, hidden away, covered. But resurrection always follows obedience. God is not done with you. This is not the end. This is the forging. This is where weak faith dies and unshakable faith is born. This is where testimonies are formed. This is where chains break. This is where the old version of you gives way to the one God always intended. Life is hard on purpose. Faith forged in fire. And if you're still standing, still believing, still breathing, still reaching for God in the middle of your mess, then hear me today. You were built for this battle. And what's ahead of you is greater than anything that is behind you. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been an honor and a blessing. We will see you on the next one. God bless you.